I hope I called all the Marines soldiers at least once in this recording just to piss them off. So, yeah.
You can give them an extra box of crayons; they'll be all right.
So that was our top for the year so far, mid year. So we're going to cut it here, and then we'll start our actual episode.
Very
Um,
off the cuff.
very off the cuff, very natural. In This will probably still be in the edit because I don't care anymore. Nobody watches these, so we're just
I'm
having
working on
fun.
making those like fan counts and like some bot accounts. My next check, I'll put like $20 in, and get us like 50 more subscribers.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah,
Slowly
well,
building.
I mean, at that point in time, no, 50 still won't do it. No, wait a minute.
50 is the next whatever it is.
Is
they said
is that Hydro Man Rand goes to space? Is that 50? Yeah,
that is
I
50.
think
What is
so.
100?
Yeah, I don't think we ever decided.
We didn't. Okay.
No, it can be whatever we want it to be. So we'll figure it out and we'll change our minds on the spot.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah. I did change around the schedule, so next time we are doing Sorcerer,
Nice.
William Friedkin's film. So I have a lot to talk about on that one. I'm excited for you
Sorcerer.
to I'm excited for you to watch that one.
I'm excited too. Actually, it looks interesting.
Yeah, I think
I'm
it'll be up your alley. I think you'll really enjoy it. And I think you'll dig it.
excited to talk about
I
it.
think especially after I think how you appreciated the slow build in Babette's Feast. I think and the payoff there. That's the way Sorcerer feels to me. It's a slow start. It's sluggish, but man, it takes off and it's amazing. Yeah, and then we'll do singing in the rain after your pick. So I just shifted all of mine out.
Do you like useless objects which make unnecessary tasks easier? Do you prefer buying the most cheaply made product possible just to save a buck? Are you tired of spending your hard-earned money on products that last? Do you not mind supporting a company that practically uses slave labor? Well, why not buy the worthless products we supply at Temu or Wish? We're basically the same. Holy shit, there is a Temu ad on this stupid website I'm using right now. You can't escape their garbage. Ha 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 ha. If I never have to hear this stupid fucking voice ever again, it'll be too soon. China is committing genocide on its Uyghur population and Taiwan is its own country. Let's see if this stupid voice generator will say that.
But this week we are doing the legal classic A Few Good Men. As a Rob Reiner joint. And before you get into your explanation, I want to go over Rob Reiner's directorial run up to this movie. Okay?
Yeah.
So he started with This Is Spinal Tap, all right, which is a classic. The Sure Thing, which is a great John Cusack teen comedy. He did Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and then A Few Good Men. And then it all went downhill after there for him. He did a movie called North, which is very maligned and very hated.
The worst movie of 1994, the movie that Roger and I each would least like to sit through a second time. The single worst picture of 94. And I thought about Mixed Nuts, which just came out at Christmas time, but my choice is another cataclysmically unfunny comedy. It's called North, directed by Rob Reiner, of all people.
I remember the only thing I really remember from North, before I went back and looked at the plot, was there's a scene early in the movie where his parents they're fighting. It's very generic crap. And all of a sudden, he just grabs his crotch and just falls to the ground and starts screaming just to get them to stop fighting and look at him. And I remember even as a child being like this, I'm like, I think my mom would just throw something at me if I did that. Like even as a 3-year-old, he was pissing me off, or however old I was. I don't know how old I was.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever watched North. I remember when it came out, and I would have had to have been 13, 14 when it came out, and I just remember how hated it was. Like everybody was painting it. I mean, it was like a joke
Right.
when it came out. It was a punchline. Whenever
And
you'd watch the
I
late
had
nights of like Johnny Carson, or not Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, or
right.
something like that, like North was a punchline at that point over that summer. I do remember that, or whenever it came out. Um, so yeah, I don't know much about North, and he never really got back to that initial run of what is that, 8 movies? I mean, like
Yeah.
all classics. I mean, probably the Sure Thing is probably his least well-known one in that. I think it's really good. As the princess from Spaceballs, she's kind of John Cusack's love interest.
Mhm.
I think it's a really good teen comedy drama. I mean, I thought that one was really good, especially in line with the other ones John Cusack was doing, like Better Off Dead and
Right.
uh, Crazy Crazy Hot Summer. I think that was the other one with Demi Moore. He did
Yeah.
one with Demi Moore and Bobcat Goldthwait and a couple other people. I used to
Right.
like that one only because Bobcat Goldthwait got in a Godzilla costume. That's why I remember that one.
Mhm.
But we're not talking about those. We're talking about A Few Good Men. Demi
Talk about
Moore,
whatever you want to talk
also
about.
Tom Cruise, young Tom Cruise, or probably about 30, I would guess. Um, an old Jack Nicholson, not as old as he is now, but still pretty old. Kevin Pollak, Kevin Bacon, uh, Kiefer
Did you say
Sutherland,
Demi Moore?
Noel Wild. Right, a few years right before he did a long stint on ER and became really popular.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean,
Demi
just
Moore?
yeah, Demi Moore. Yeah, she was the second one.
Okay.
Or yeah, I referenced her back. Christopher Guest from This Is Spinal Tap. He's the doctor on the stand in this one. Good little
Mhm.
callback. I think him and Rob Reiner were just good friends. Um, Written by Aaron Sorkin. So I mean, everybody knows that name now. I mean, he's kind of a classic writer. West Wing, I think, is probably what he's best known for. So of all of those reasons why you would have picked this one, why did you pick this movie for us to watch?
Just Tom Cruise. That's it.
Okay. No. Do you want to talk to me about Scientology and do I need to hold some cans and work on
Well, I
that?
want to talk about why you're still afraid to reach your true potential. Lord Zima, or whatever his name is, really is
Xenu. See, I'm not even a
Xenu.
Scientologist, and I know better than you. Come on, man. Let's
I
get.
didn't watch. I didn't watch the South Park episode to get the education. No, my main love for it is I love lawyer movies for some reason. Same as boxing movies. I hate watching those things in real life. I just don't really find boxing entertaining, and obviously law in actuality is actually quite dull.
Right.
Um, well, compared to what it is on TV. But I love the movies, and I think I kind of got more into A Few Good Men probably about 5, 6 years at least into actually serving. Because whenever they do a movie about the military, usually it's just awful, like it makes no sense. But sometimes it's either really good, or sometimes it's done so poorly in a way that is hilarious to me that I can still find joy out of it. I wouldn't say they do the military poor.
Real quick. Name one of those. I just want to know. Just name one of those.
Which ones?
That's done so poorly it's entertaining. That's just so bad. Gets the military so wrong that it's fun to watch for you.
Oh crap! Put me on the spot. I can't off the top of my head. I will send you some. Because I know there are some, and now that you're asking me, I of course have no answer. Besides this one, but although I wouldn't say it's done super poorly, but the way that everyone behaves in this is just not even close to reality in any sense of the word. It's
I have that.
basically
That's one of my last notes. Is something a person does right at the very end, and I'm like, that seems so out of character for someone in the military. I hated it. I hated that they did that. Yeah,
The
yeah.
only thing that was truly in character, I thought, was the two young Marines who are just super gung ho. They're like real. They're all about yes sir, no sir, like being real animated. That's not super common, but it's definitely not uncommon. There's always plenty of guys like that. They usually grow. They usually kind of grow out of that, but some young farm boy who's probably what 19, him being that way, it doesn't surprise me at all. But
Well,
Tom Cruise,
they even made a point of the older, was it Lance Corporal? Was that there's a Lance Corporal and a private, right? Those are the two ranks
I
that
think
have.
so. I'm not great with Marine ranks, but I think you're right.
And he even mentioned at one scene that like he had nothing to go home to. Like he had no hope if he went home. He was from nowhere. There were
Right.
no jobs where he was. So like he was they gave both of those characters reasons to be such true believers and such
Hmm.
so passionate about their career and really thankful.
Yeah. And what's sad though is that there are people who will actually prey on that, knowing that this is kind of your last shot,
Oh yeah.
and they'll make you, and they'll have you. Usually, it's you'll just do whatever menial task they put in front of you, and obviously in the movie, it's a lot more. They're going to have you kill somebody, but people will take advantage of that because a lot of people who join the military, at least a good chunk of them, are people who don't have too many other options, or at least don't think they do. Obviously, if you're 17, 18, you've probably got more options than you realize. But they want a way to actually kind of make something of themselves. And then you see the military. You've got the whole being patriotic is one part of it, and then you got the fact that you can actually get a job, get some skills, have a life, be taken care of, and feel like you're of value. And there are
Yeah,
a lot of guys who will fail that.
and there was a joke that Louis C.K. had.
This guy is giving his life for the country, he thinks, and so he has to say, but that's good enough. That's good enough. The fact that he thinks it. I'm serious. He's fucking told by everybody in his life system that that's a great thing to do, and he's doing it. And it's scary, but he's doing it, and he's sitting in this shitty seat.
But hey, why wouldn't they go do that? They don't have any
Well, I
other
wouldn't say it's
options.
all bullshit. I wouldn't say it's all bullshit, but I do understand that obviously there's a narrative to
If
be.
you're stationed in Guantanamo Bay after the Cold War, yeah,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
you're
If
not
you're
really fighting for our freedoms. Like all these guys were a bit too gung ho for my taste. I'm like, dude, you're Cold War's over. We're not at war with Cuba because like they're more scared of us than we are of them. Like yeah, all of that was kind of.
right, because I think this was probably set in probably at the time the movie was made, right? Like early '90s, maybe late '80s, probably.
Well, I think I think that's a big problem with the film because I think if they had said that it was set in, even if they just said it was set in 86 or 87, it
Hmm.
would have been so much more believable than you're just assuming it's set at the time that it came out. So
Right.
in the early 90s, Cold War's over. Like we have a trade embargo with Cuba, but it's not like we're not at war with them. They're not our enemies. Um,
Right.
so
Yeah, and the fact that
so
Jack
so
Nicholson.
a lot of what like and 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 that's I have two big flaws with my movie, and I think that's one of them. It is based on a play, so I don't know if Aaron Sorkin wrote this when the Cold War was still occurring, and it makes more sense than that. And I think that is a failure that they didn't wrap the movie around the Cold War. It
Mhm.
loosely, even just loosely wrap it, because it's set in the '90s as far as we're concerned. Um,
Based on the
so
technology, it feels that way.
yeah, because they all have computers like that. That's very '90s, like them using that, all the printouts. Yeah. Everything feels very, very '90s in this. I mean, like the way they're all dressed when they're
Yeah.
not in
All I needed was for
uniform.
some guy just tapping a computer saying that I'm gonna hack the system, since he just does this
Yeah.
incessantly for 5
Have you heard about this new rage called grunge? Like that's all they needed to say, like.
What is Google? What is that? Google?
No, that's about 10 years away at this point.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's not there. Um, But I mean,
No, it would have
flaws
been, what
aside,
is this Alta Vista? That would have been what they would have said. Yeah.
have you heard of electronic mail? Big news. I don't think it's going to take off, but people are
Yeah.
liking it.
I'm just not sure about it.
But no, I mean, flaws aside, I actually do really enjoy it, and I think I can look a little bit past the gung ho ness of the soldiers at Guantanamo, because like Marines in general, but also just anyone kind of in more of a combat job is naturally going to be more gung ho.
Right.
Like infantry officers behaving that way isn't I mean, they're not as vulgar, at least in my experience, as Jack Nicholson is. But in general, they're going to be they are going to be more rough, more rough around the edges, because their entire job is combat. Their life is combat.
How about openly anti-Semitic, like his character is?
I'm not openly. That depends what you mean by openly. I mean, I don't think they'd be ballsy enough to do it in front of three naval lawyers.
Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You? You, Lieutenant Weinberg?
He calls the Jew out by name in that scene. That's the only person he calls out by name. And I was like, holy crap. I was like, they're making a statement about this guy. Okay.
I'm not saying you didn't get here through hard work. I'm just saying it's a lot like you.
Yeah, there was a lot of, and I will say, I will say, like, watching this movie, it makes me wonder, because they recently, at least digitally, they edited the French Connection, right? They edited out a couple sentences that Gene Hackman's character says, and he uses a racial slur, but he's not like this upstanding great character. He is our protagonist. He's one of the protagonists in the films, but he's kind of a crooked cop. He's a little dirty. And so when he uses a racial slur, it's kind of understood that it's not the film saying it's okay. It's building up who the character is, and kind of, yeah. And I worry about a film like this with Jack Nicholson. Some of the stuff he says, especially when they're in Guantanamo, I'm like, is this film going to get edited too? Like, that just kind of worries me. Like, because he's not like a true villain. Like, would they edit out some of the stuff he says? I don't know.
Well, I mean, he's supposed to be the villain of the film, and the stuff in Guantanamo, I thought was more. I mean, obviously it was awful, but it's like, yeah, they're trying to make it seem like he can't be touched, because he's like, there's three lawyers who are actively investigating, and he's just basically flipping them off, saying whatever he wants to their face, not concerned about a thing. And they set it up because I think he's basically on path to be like the next Secretary of Defense or something.
Yeah, they mentioned that in offline, because apparently that was in the news or something like that. Kevin Pollak's character read that.
Can we pause this? Give me 1 minute.
Yeah, you're good. Just go edit this out, or I won't edit it out. It'll be boring for a minute.
Sorry about that, man. Wife,
No, you're fine.
Wife just got home. She needed help with something. But yeah, I mean, so he's on path to become the Secretary of Defense. But I remember the Captain Weinberg or whatever thing. That one seemed really out of place. It's like, why are you one? The idea, I guess, of him getting that flustered that he would just throw out some random anti-Semitic slur or jab.
Yeah. It was a jab. I wouldn't. Yeah, but I mean, I guess it really shows like the change in times because you weren't concerned about like just a phrase or a moment like that. I mean, the idea of
Right.
something going viral the way it is today. I mean,
Sure. Sure.
that just wasn't thought of. I mean,
But what I really
so
enjoyed though was the actual story of them kind of unraveling everything, realizing, these kids, yeah, they did something wrong, but this wasn't some. This plane doesn't stop there.
yeah,
There's a lot more going on, and them kind of like pushing it and like trying to like actually go against the grain, like a lot of tropes to some degree for movies like that, but done very well to where it's just really enjoyable. A lot of classic Tom Cruise, just facial like faces and reactions, and just stuff that we're gonna see for 30 years from the point that this movie was made. Um,
yeah. Like he's. I enjoy watching Tom Cruise in movies. I don't think he's a bad actor, but he's very a specific actor. Um,
yes,
like
he has role.
he doesn't have a lot of range. And I'm saying that after I actually just watched Eyes Wide Shut for the first time this past weekend, the Stanley Kubrick film, and he's phenomenal in that. He does an amazing job in that. And I've seen Magnolia, so I mean I know he's got with the right director, the was Paul Thomas Anderson and Stanley Kubrick, yeah, they can get a good performance out of anybody. Like they're just that great of a director. But yeah, for the most part, he played the cocky cool guy who you kind of like, even though you probably in real life wouldn't. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of who he played when he was younger. That's who he's playing in this film. Like you like him, even though if you knew this guy in real life, you would hate him. You would
Oh
not
yeah,
like this guy at all. And now
the
he's
whole
kind
time
of just
on his
playing
side.
like he's playing the guy that runs today. Like that's all he plays today.
Yeah,
So yeah, but he he,
like
he
the
found his
entire
niche.
time on his side. But if
Yeah.
if if my lawyer was just swinging a baseball bat at 2 in the afternoon, I'm like, dude, my case. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Please, I'm
Yeah.
paying you. But and of course, though, we can't. I guess we can't go past the fact that this has probably one of the most quoted lines in movie pop culture history.
You, Lieutenant Weinberg.
It was fun for me because Megan has watched so many movies with me that I'm seeing for the first time that she hadn't seen, or that I'm sorry that she has seen. It was fun watching this with her just in general because she hadn't seen it, but she had no idea that this was the movie where that line came from.
Right.
Which I wasn't even aware of. So when it happened, she was like, "That's where this came from." And I'm like, "Oh, you didn't know that?" So it's cool because like
Yeah, and
fun
what
that
and what's
live.
interesting to me is that it's a good line. It's a well-written line. I don't want to take anything away from Aaron Sorkin, but it's like that final monologue by Jack Nicholson is so good.
Oh
Like
yeah, it's
it's
wonderful.
it's probably his best performance ever. And I mean I I have a lot of faults with this film. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's great, but like that third act, him on the stand, the entire film building to that moment on the stand, it really does work. It's really kind of phenomenal. Yeah.
And it's done in a way because there's so many. It's so common now where people online will try to take the villain and just find all the good about them and say, actually, they were right. And I'm not gonna say that Jack Nicholson's character was right at all, but some of his monologue is said in a way to where it's like you still think he's a bad guy, but there's little points there where he's correct. He's like you want somebody on that wall protecting you. And it's like you do want a guy who's a little more who's just gonna get it done at times to be the one pulling the trigger. Sure.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, you don't want him killing Marines who are just not doing the best they can do. But the place he's coming from, it's like, oh, he's like, you can really feel the passion. You can feel how he's actually thought out his stance, and that he's not just some power hungry lunatic. He's got a giant ego, but you can see that he actually believes what he's saying. He believes that he's a man to protect us.
Absolutely, and yeah, he sells that so well. Like, I mean, I could definitely see someone going in there and underplaying that, but the way he just eats all the scenery up in that moment as he's giving that, I think it sells it sells the character's belief in what he's doing, and it
Mhm.
and his I maybe radicalism isn't the right word, but there is a form of radicalism that his character has, believing he is that important. Um,
He's definitely a radical. I mean,
yeah,
he's he's gone off the edges. Like he doesn't value life if it's getting in the way of what he thinks is the current mission. He will happily throw away his own Marines if it means he can do his job. Not not send them, because there's a difference between a commander sending troops to a battle with a purpose and some of them not making it, as opposed to him just saying, "Hey, you're gone. I'm gonna kill you. That's it."
yeah. Well, and I don't even think that he wanted that kid to be killed. He wanted him to be brought in line because he saw that the kid's failures. And I do think in that way that I think Jack Nicholson's character understood the hierarchy of command until there were actual repercussions, and then he tried to bury it. I
Right.
mean, that's the entire story. But he understood that this one kid's failure to perform adequately was a failure on all the commanders on the base, all the way up. He
Yeah,
he
but
he
he
did, he did
also
realize that until there were actual repercussions
mm,
to his orders, on trying to get that kid into shape. So
yeah, but don't forget though, he also was upset because the kid was writing letters pointing out things that were happening. At that point,
right,
I think he actually wanted him just to be be silenced.
yeah, that was one thing
I,
I would. One other thing I would have liked more in this film is a bit more on the old the round fired over the fence.
right.
I would have liked a little bit more on that. Um, I felt like there was maybe something more there, and maybe there isn't the play, and they didn't really want to bring it out. I don't know, but
I think if they went too much more into that, they'd have to explain why it wasn't some major national incident or international incident.
well, I mean that's why I wanted to know about it because I mean, like two soldiers on opposite sides of walls, like firing at each other. I mean that's a
Yeah.
pretty big deal.
Well, I mean, yeah,
So
like imagine today if like at like the North Korea South Korea border, one of our soldiers just fired across the
well,
border.
well, like, and I think that's why because I watched a movie earlier this year called JSA, and it's one of Park Chan-wook's first films,
Mm.
set in Korea, and it is about kind of that about soldiers on the North Korean South Korean border, firing at each other. And the entire story is this. You would probably love this movie. It's a military tribunal trying to figure out what happened and what took place there. It is a fantastic movie. Um,
What's it called?
JSA, Joint
Yeah.
Security, Joint Security something. I can't remember what the A stands for. I think I watched it on like Tubi or one of those free services, so it's out there.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. Actually, well, my phone's acting up. That actually does sound exactly like my kind of movie. Because
Yeah.
again, just like I love 12 like 12 Angry Men, which granted 12 Angry Men was just wonderful all around.
Oh yeah.
Um, Movies like that, I love that.
I
Yeah,
was
I mean,
so my other. I want to get through my final. Or I have two other complaints about this film. Um, One is I hate that the character turns around at the end and shouts, "There's an officer on deck, Tin Hut," and salutes. I think it would have worked much better if he just turned and saluted Tom Hanks's character and then walked away. The whole him shouting everything, I was just like, that was like we and this kind of goes into my really big complaint about the film. It's like they have to address that this character previously, talked about how important it is to salute officers, like when he was in custody, and how important that is. Um, and then my big complaint with this film. Are you there? Oh, you can't hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh.
All right, I'll keep it low.
Yeah.
I do like
Okay.
my smooth NPR voice.
That's all. Yeah, yeah. We're an easy listening. We're an easy listening YouTube channel that people don't watch. Yeah, that's exactly what we are.
That's right.
Okay, so I was saying, okay, the tin hup at the end was stupid. He should have just saluted the guy. It felt like the movie didn't trust us to remember the conversation earlier when the two were talking about saluting officers. And
Right.
then I really don't like the fact that right before the big final courtroom scene, Tom Cruise has to spell out everything that he's about to do in the next scene, and then that exact thing happens. Like that really bothers me about this film. Like I really wish he had just kind of, like in movies do this all the time. We're like, I've got an idea, and it fades to black, and then you
Hmm.
see what happens in the next scene, and you
Right.
find out what the character was thinking all along. And yeah, and I really wish the movie did something like that, a little more along those lines.
Or they
It
could do
for
what.
for a very intelligent script, at points it felt like it didn't trust the audience to know what was going to happen next.
Right. They could do what they do in Ocean's 11, where they basically tell you everything, but there's just a couple small details they leave out, and then at the end you see, oh, there it is.
100% exactly. And I think as a lawyer courtroom drama, I think that would work really well. I think you could
Hmm.
leave out those few little details, and yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
As far as the whole tin hut thing, I mean, it's annoying, but I'm just okay with that, I guess, because like I've seen people just be that like dramatic and over the top about it. So it's like, it is
all
what it
right,
is.
baby. Oh, and the Gitmo Bay matte painting was incredible. That matte painting
Yes,
was gorgeous. I really like that matte painting.
that was
Uh,
nice.
yeah, I think that's most of my notes.
That's
Oh, I
good.
really like the Kevin Bacon character. I like that they didn't make
Yeah,
him a secondary antagonist. They
they
made
did
him a
him well.
likable character. Yeah.
Yeah, like you think he's going down that route, but it's clear that he really is just strictly doing his job.
Yeah, and you see that right at the very end. Like and
Right.
well, you see that throughout. Like he's a little antagonistic toward Tom Cruise's character, but he's not overly so. And I do
Right.
I think he's actually, like, their relationship is probably the best written in the because it's the least tropey. Like I
Hmm.
just like how that worked out. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
so I guess we got to ask the question we always ask: would Papa have liked this movie?
I think he definitely would have.
Oh,
I think
he
he would have
probably
paid
did.
attention.
I'm sure he saw it, and I'm sure he liked
He
it.
probably
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I
I
think this
think.
would have been right up this alley. I'm sure he knew people like all the characters in this movie without a doubt during his military service. Yeah.
He's probably in charge of people like a lot of the characters in the movie.
Oh, I'm sure he was, because well,
Not lawyers, but just people.
I'm trying to think of how, I don't know how high his rank ever got to. I know he got pretty high. I don't think he would have never been over, he wouldn't have outranked Jack Nicholson's character ever, I don't think, though, but
Well, I know he was maybe not. I know he was command sergeant major. I want to say he.
well, he
I know
was,
he might
well,
have
he
been
was, he
command
was, he
sergeant
was
major of
Army
base.
too. He wasn't Marines, so
Right.
different ranking system. Yeah, but
Well, yeah, but it's the same. It's same in terms of levels.
yeah.
If he's the command sergeant major of a base, technically, if you want to be technical, he doesn't outrank any officer, but if you're the command sergeant major of a base, no colonel is gonna give you any crap. They know
Okay.
better.
Yeah, because I don't know if Papa may have been is enlisted. Is that when you don't come from college in there?
Kind of. It's more of to be an officer, you gotta have a 4-year degree.
Okay.
There's plenty of enlisted who do have 4-year degrees,
Okay.
but people coming straight from high school are enlisted. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know when Papa got his. I'm sure he got it through the GI Bill at some point in time, but I don't know when he got his degree.
Right. Well, yeah, no, he was never an officer. But
Okay.
yeah, at the end of his career, any colonel would have given him a lot more respect than the reverse. Like they would know because the problem is if you don't give them, because technically you can order them around, but the moment the person that they're this like, because he was probably a sergeant major, I think for a 1-star general. The moment that general hears that you're giving his sergeant major crap, he's gonna bring hell upon your world. It's gonna be a bad day for you.
And I hope I do think it's a great film. I think it's
Oh, yeah.
I love this film. It's still very flawed, but it's a great
Yeah.
film. Yeah.
Which, I mean, there's only a handful of films I think that are great and not flawed. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the number of films I would think that with.
Yep.
I don't know who won the Academy Awards that year because I know this was nominated, and I know Rob Reiner, and he was nominated. I think it had 4 Academy Award nominations, which I'll admit I think is a lot, but I don't know what the competition was.
Wait a minute. So had this been the 92 or 93 Oscars?
I guess it would have been the 93 Oscars.
Okay,
For
because
the 92 movies.
92 was like the 92 Oscars were like all Terminator 2 and Silence of the Lambs. So
That's fair.
yeah.
They're not gonna be those.
Al Pacino, Son of a Woman, Unforgiven. Howard's in My Cousin Vinny. Oh yeah, My Cousin Vinny. That's right. Yeah. Neil Jordan for The Crying Game. Unforgiven for Best Director. Okay.
That's
That had been the 92 awards. Yeah, Beauty and the Beast, Silence of the Lambs, Jonathan Demme for Silence of the Lambs. I think it came out, and then yeah, Terminator 2, JFK. That was a good year for movies. The Fisher King, City Slickers.
Right, and
Jack Palance for Best Supporting Actor in City Slickers. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think it actually. Which I'm really kind of shocked that maybe they didn't have the Best Adapted Screenplay. I'm really surprised that Sorkin didn't get that. That seems.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it was nominated for 4. I'm trying to remember the other.
I mean, that makes sense. It should. I mean, Jack Nicholson. I mean, he has the most commanding 5 minutes of screen time in all of cinematic history.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he makes that movie.
Let's see. Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Film Editing.
Yeah, it definitely should have lost film editing. I would have.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Again, I think a lot of my issues with the film could actually be fixed in editing. Of the so I wouldn't give it that, but
yeah, I would maybe consider giving it to, because the winner was Gene Hackman of that year for Unforgiven.
That is good.
That
Unforgiven, so good.
Was it good? Okay.
Oh, Unforgiven is one of the best westerns of all time. Yeah,
I'll have to go back and watch it because it's been so long.
Yeah, and Gene Hackman, he plays a character a lot like Jack Nicholson's character. He's definitely the protagonist or the antagonist of the story. He's a little more evil, but he does it a little more unpresuming. We might add
Gotcha.
that. I might add that out there. That's a good, that would be a good movie for us to cover at some point in time. That's a fun one. I need to
I
rewatch
know
it.
yeah, I know I saw it. I think I was just so young that I just do not remember it.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these films, like even this one. I mean, I watched when I was young. I didn't really remember a lot of it. Like I honestly thought the whole shooting in this movie was a lot more of the film than it really was.
Right.
So I mean, like I'd watched it so long ago. So
Well, I'm always gonna have a soft spot for courtroom drama.
yeah, it's not really my thing. I do like it when it's done really well, which this one is, of course. I mean, it's that's you couldn't ask for a better third act in a courtroom drama than what this one gives. So
Definitely not.
You, Lieutenant Weinberg, you can't handle the truth.